You are listening to Your Physique Radio. We are broadcasting worldwide via iTunes, YouTube, and Facebook, bringing you the latest in bodybuilding, fitness, and nutrition. Your Physique Radio. It's your physique. It's your choice.
Alright everybody, welcome along to Your Physique Radio. This is episode number 9. It is July the 23rd, 2012. My name is Colin Kennedy, and joining me on the line after a long weekend is Craig Clifford. Craig, I hope at least you had a good time outside of Ireland. How was it?
Well, as you can hear from my voice, so I apologise for the show, but I'll try my best. We had an excellent weekend, let's leave it at that. So, very long, and get enough sleep, but look, that's what you got for a stag, like bachelor party, so you got to do it sometimes, you know?
You got to do what you got to do, right? But
there you go.
You got to be there for your friends when you're in need, and that's normally carrying them home from a bar on a stag night, so yeah, you did your best. Well, Craig, this week we're going to have an abbreviated show. You know, there's no show on last weekend. Looking forward to next weekend. There's no show on either, so we're looking all the way to the Pro Bodybuilding Weekly Championships, which happen on the 8th and 9th of August in Tampa, Florida. We've got a very small list of competitors who are in at the moment as we talk, and those people are Ed Nunn, Tony Freeman, Hidetaka Yamagishi, and Brandon Curry. They are in for sure. Anything outside of that, we're not given a guarantee just yet, so again, we won't mention them until we know any better. But with those four names, Craig, it's already lining up to be one of the better shows of the year, apart from the Arnold, of course.
Oh, absolutely. Four absolutely fantastic competitors there. And I think it was you posted a few pictures recently of Hide, Colin?
Yep.
Or maybe it was Hide himself posted on our page, but he looked absolutely fantastic. Absolutely unbelievable. Best I've seen him in a long time. He looks big and he looks ripped. Did you see the pictures?
I did, and you know what, Craig? That was at a guest pause, which was just over a week ago. So he was 4 weeks out at that stage. Wow. So he's doing pretty good, and I mean, I know it's publicity no matter what, but he wouldn't be standing on stage unless he's in shape, and he definitely wouldn't be posting pictures online unless he was in shape. And, you know, 4 weeks out looking like he did, I definitely think Hide is one to watch for this show. He's done well before. He's placed inside the top 10 numerous times at the Olympia. I think he actually got a top 6 once, Craig, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so too.
I've seen him in person, and I've met the guy once, and another time I saw him training legs with his trainer at the time was Eric Delora, and I think he still is. This guy is Mr. Intensity. I mean, he trains balls to the floor. He is just unreal, especially when he's squatting. He goes so intense, and his repetitions are so slow and focused. It's not surprising that he has the quad and ham development that he does. And look, he's Japan's best bodybuilder to date, and I think he's only going to get better because he's still in his early to mid 30s, so he's got another 4 or 5 good years left on him. And with those Japanese genetics as well, you know, his body will last a lot longer than us white guys here in Ireland. So he's definitely looking good. Last week we mentioned Tony Freeman and Ed Nunn to have similar structures, and you know, Tony's been around for a long time. He's in his early to mid 40s now. Ed Nunn is creeping up near the 40 mark, I believe. He's a relatively new pro, a couple of years on the scene. And then you've got Brandon Curry, who's one of the BSN Golden Boys. Hasn't competed very much, but he's definitely gotten better since he's turned pro. And you know, there are a couple of pictures on our Facebook page as we speak, which show Brandon about 3 weeks out from the Tampa Pro Show on August 8th and 9th. And he's not going to be one to look away from. He's looking like he's in shape. I definitely think he will be in condition. Whether he has the size to match up to the likes of Tony Freeman or Ed Nunn, I'm not sure. But he and Hidetaka Yamagishi are going to come in and they're going to be peeled. So I'm definitely looking forward to this show. Craig, other than those four, I don't see anyone else out there who's definitely put their name into the hat for this one. Do you have any updates yourself?
No, I hear a few rumours, alright, but like you say, Colin, until it's concrete, I'm not going to give over the names.
Yeah.
But it's very rare on one of the, and I say this using the Cummins guys, the smaller shows, that you'd roll out 4 names. You can't really choose the 4. I couldn't anyway. I couldn't say one is definitely a favourite other than 4. I just couldn't. Any one of them could beat on a different one on any given day, I think.
Yeah, they're definitely ones to watch. It's going to be a really good show. I'm looking forward to it. And then the following week we do have a show in Houston, I believe. So if some of these guys don't get their Olympia qualification spot, they might just hang around for an extra week, stay in shape, and go down to Texas and try and take a first or second place down there and build some more points. But as it stands on the point standings, Ben Pakulski is the one to watch. He's at 10 points. He's almost guaranteed his place on the Olympia stage this year for 2012. And I don't think we're going to see him between now and the Olympia. I'd say he'll ride out on those 10 points. He'll make the assumption that we're making that he will qualify, and he's going to be on stage for his first Mr. Olympia. And you know what, I think he's going to be fighting definitely for top 7, top 8, but no better than that. But again, sticking with what we know, they're the 4 names that are in so far. Next week we'll have more updates. So let's move on nice and quickly to the next topic, which is going to be our topic of the week. And this topic is brought to you by Body Benefit Health and Fitness. For more information, visit Body Benefit Health and Fitness on Facebook. Body Benefit Health and Fitness, making fitness fun. This week's topic of the week is plateaus and how to break them. So we're going to be talking about fitness, strength and weight loss. Craig, why don't you start us off there with how you feel like breaking through a fitness plateau, or what approach you would give to your clients?
Okay, guys. Well, everyone faces plateau at some stage when they're lifting. Having the knowledge here is probably the most important aspect of all, because if you know how to break through it and you to avoid them, it will help. And it can also help avoid wasted weeks, months in the gym. Building a better body, as we all know, guys, takes a lot of things, and one of the more important ones would be progressive overload. And there are plenty of ways to achieve this. With just one being adding more weight to give your muscle something that's not used to. But you could just change the speed of your reps, keep the weight the exact same. Do that for 2 or 3 weeks. I guarantee you bust through your plateau. Do a 5-second rep, 5 seconds up, 5 seconds down. It'll be huge. I guarantee it, and it'll help you. Because we've all trained together. We've all done the X, Y, and Z, and we do hit the base. It's something that we need to realise when we're there. And I'll touch on that again in a few minutes. But once you realise it, I think you're good and you can get around it. Drop steps to be another one. Say, like, to explain a drop step for those who don't know, it's like you reach failure or close to it and make the weight lighter, then do a few more reps. Like, with the time under tension, there's going to be a lot higher, so you'll have tricked your body into growth. The complete opposite also would work. Doing, instead of 5 seconds up and down, you could do very slow movement on the way down and explode on the positive part of the rep. Obviously in a slow, controlled manner, or in a controlled manner. But there's a couple of ways. A rest pause would be a good plateau buster. It helps bust through sticking points with weight, because it takes momentum out of the reps. And usually when you're pressing from a deep position, so ideal for bench pressing and squatting. A good way now, we say, to use the rest pause would be to sit down on a box squat, or sit down on a bench with the bar on your back and press up from this stopped position, or use a safeties on a bench press or a Smith machine. In the day, do a certain body part will also help break through a plateau. So if you always do legs on a Monday and then chest and whatever, just turn around, do something completely different. Do 2 body parts in a day and take away a set or 2, just the same thing. Anything will help. Change the foods will even help. The food you eat post and pre-workout. Personally, I found doing 2 to 4 weeks of very heavy compound training, keeping the reps below 3, then switching up to reps between 6 to 8 for about another 2 to 4 weeks, and then switching up the reps to about 10 to 12 for another 2 to 4 weeks, helped me break through my plateaus. And I was much stronger at the end than 8-10 weeks, much stronger than when I started. And then it's a good way of telling you've progressed. Remember, you can only break through plateau, guys, if you know you've hit one. And that's why regular weighing, body fat checks, and probably very importantly, a lifting journal could be great tools in realising that you've hit it. Because like I said at the start, we'll all hit plateaus at some stage. So, Colin, how to approach plateaus and so on and so forth?
In terms of strength, what you said there about forced reps, negative reps, all that kind of stuff, basically, speeding up your repetitions or slowing them down, or like you said, using a box squat or the safety catches if you're doing a bench press, a Smith machine. All of those guys are definitely one way that you could go about it. You also mentioned nutrition, and a lot of people forget about that because, if your nutrition doesn't keep up with your progress in the gym, your nutrition alone will set you to a standard, or set you to fail against a plateau. So if you're getting stronger, you need to increase the calories, because if you're getting stronger, you're generating more muscle fibers. More muscle fibers require more calories, preferably more protein, of course. But most people do forget that nutrition is the key. On the other side of that, then you've got people who are trying to lose weight, which we'll speak about in a moment. But again, nutrition will be the key there, with a combination of exercise. So whether you're trying to get bigger and stronger or get smaller and lighter, nutrition in the combination with your training itself is really what you want to be looking at. One thing I will say, Craig, that you didn't mention, or you're leaving to me to mention maybe, is that instead of training to beat a plateau, you could actually take a step away from training for 3 or 4 days or 5 days and let your body rest and let your body recuperate, and then go back to the gym fresh, and you'll have regenerated some muscle tissue, you'll have restored all the glycogen stores by eating carbohydrates on those 3 or 4 days off, and you come back into the gym with a burst of energy that you probably hadn't got training 4 or 5 days a week consistently. So that 4 or 5 days or even a week off, by all means, it on its own, as long as you maintain good nutrition for that week off, it might bring you back up to the stage where you can break through that plateau in terms of strength. So I have noticed myself, if I take a week off, psychologically I might feel like I've been out of the gym for a week, but in reality when I get into the gym after that week off, my strength is at least where it was, if not better. So that week off is definitely one way about going about it. But for the likes of yourself and myself, Craig, who don't like to miss much time from the gym, what you said there about slowing down the repetitions, or possibly changing to compound movements for a couple of weeks, or lower repetitions in each set, definitely ways about going about it. What I would say, guys, is don't try and do all 4 or 5 that we've suggested at the same time, because if you're slowing down your reps and you're doing 2 or 3 repetitions and then you're taking some time off or you're changing your exercises, you don't know which one actually broke the plateau for you.
Good point, very good point.
You might say, well, I broke it, big deal, it's fine, I'll move on. But the next time around, that combination might not work anymore. So you're better off to know what worked, try it again. If it doesn't work, try something else. Don't throw everything into one big salad bowl and mix it all up. You want to know your lettuce from your cucumber from your tomatoes. So you want to make sure you know what you're actually doing that has caused you to get through that plateau. So, and like Craig said as well, make sure that you actually are at a plateau and you're not just kind of being lazy in the gym. So keep a record. If you're still doing 10 reps of 225 on a bench and you can't get to 11 or 12, has the rest of your training progressed, and is it just that one lift? Maybe your technique is off. Maybe you're doing it at the end of your session when you're already fatigued and you're tired. Just changing around the order of your exercise might help too, because Monday nights doesn't have to be chest and arms every night in every gym in the country. So, feel free, lads, to do legs on a Monday and chest on a Wednesday or Thursday, because variety is definitely a key when it comes to this. But in terms of strength, it's always try something new. If you keep doing what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got, and that's basically as simple as that. You can only go so far doing what you're doing, so change it up once in a while. But definitely, if you're getting bigger and stronger, you got to increase those calories to maintain and continue with that growth. In terms of breaking through fitness plateaus, then similar principles apply. Rest is always an option. Nutrition is always going to be a question. Is it up to track or is it on speed? And then, of course, the type of training that you're doing. A lot of people will, I want to be fast, I'm just going to train fast. Fine, but your body needs a break once in a while. There's called periodization of training, where you're going to go pre-contest, contest, post-contest, and recovery and all this kind of stuff. So make sure that if you are training specifically for something, that once you reach that goal, there is a period after that where you take a rest. Now, it might not be a complete rest from training, but it might be a reduced workload, so less miles on the track or less miles on the treadmill or on the road, or cycling less miles, whatever it is. Or if you go out of season after playing football or soccer or whatever the sport is, season ends and you go to a complete stop, you don't want to do that. You might think psychologically, oh great, I get to take off a couple of months here, but when it comes back to training again come pre-season training, you've got to work all that body weight off. Got to work all your fitness back into where it was. You're better off to maintain and use it as your pre-contest preparation, so that you are constantly working forward, so that each year you're gradually getting better. To me, the off season should really be the time where you get better and not take a break. The better athletes will recognize that, so they will be in the gym, they will be on the track, they will be doing their fitness work, their strength work. They'll be making sure that they're not getting out of shape in the off season, because if you get out of shape, you got to get back into shape. The time and effort you have to get back into shape is taken away from the time you could have gotten into better shape. So don't go out of shape. Eat clean, train hard, train smart. But definitely, when it comes to fitness, if you're training hard all year round, you do want to take a step back a little bit. But I wouldn't say sit down on your ass for 3 or 4 weeks and do nothing. I would still keep moving. Craig, what about you when it comes to fitness?
Yeah, it's very similar note to what you said, and we'll probably touch on, if not next week, then the week after will be periodization and explaining it, because it's absolutely so much. You mentioned something that like a rugby player or whatever. They can't train at the same intensity in the gym for 7-8 months a year because they're playing rugby. They're all fighting, having sore quads and going on the pitch, and so on and so forth. So that's something that we've definitely mentioned anyway in the next coming week. But Colin, everything you said, mate, was perfect, to be honest. Very, very well said.
One thing I would say is, if you're training with a heart rate monitor when you're training for fitness, if you're sitting on an average heart rate of 145 beats per minute, thereabouts, and you feel like it's challenging, and you're doing, say, an hour, try doing 45 minutes at 155 heart rate for a week, for whatever, 2, 3, 4 sessions a week, and just see how you feel. And if it feels comfortable, fine, maintain it for 50 minutes the next time, 55 and 60. And eventually, when you get up to that 60 mark again, and you can maintain 155 beats per minute at that speed, there's no question your 145 heart rate is going to allow you to run faster than it did previously. So again, we'll talk more about heart rate training probably the week after we speak about periodization, which will be in probably 2 weeks' time. So 3 weeks' time we'll be talking about heart rate training. But definitely something to go towards. As we mentioned in the intro here, it's bodybuilding, fitness and nutrition. So quite a large portion of the show is obviously bodybuilding. That's where most of our fan base is coming from, and that's why you're listening in, which is great, and we do appreciate it. But we also do have those fans who are more concerned about just general health, and they might be playing field sports where fitness is a huge component of their ability to perform well. So we will cover that in the coming weeks, so do stay tuned for periodization training in 2 weeks' time. 3 weeks' time, heart rate training, which is kind of similar enough. There's some correlation between the two, and we'll give you some good examples and the benefits of both. But with fitness, that's all we really want to say. With strength, same thing. But when it comes to weight loss, most people feel that weight loss is just about the amount of food that you're eating. And now I can't stress this enough. I think the amount of food you eat is important, but I don't think it's the be all and end all. I think the types of foods you're eating, the timing in which you're eating those foods, depending on what you're training for, and that's really the key. And again, I think 2 or 3 episodes back, Craig, I mentioned to our listeners that my idea in terms of weight loss is diet first, add a cheat meal, then add cardiovascular, then add higher intensity if required, and kind of in that order, so that you're not throwing everything in at once and you don't understand which one is actually helping you lose that weight. So the less complicated, the more you can understand it, and the more likely you are to continue to progress and move forwards. So when it comes to weight loss, Craig, if somebody comes to you and they say, Craig, I've been losing 2 pounds a week for the last 10 weeks, this week nothing's happened, what would you say to them in terms of how to go forward, or what motivation, what encouragement, what type of training plan or diet plan, or what changes would you make?
It depends on what they're doing for the last 10 weeks in their 2 pounds a week.
Yeah.
It could have been just taking sugar out of my tea and added in a long walk, and then it stopped. So you can obviously progress that through that. But I think consistency is the key. You're consistently getting better. And I kind of mentioned earlier on about progressive overload when it comes to weight training. It's the same type of aspect for weight loss.
Absolutely, yeah.
You constantly need to be getting a little faster, a little better in the gym, and your diet needs to be like Colin, it was last week you mentioned that you can't out-train a bad diet. Mm-hmm. It's so true. You probably know this, Colin. as I do, there'll be people who Monday to Friday are like unbelievable. They eat so well, and they think Saturday and Sunday they can get away with it, eating crap and going out drinking on a Saturday night and so on. Then they wonder why they're not losing weight. I don't know, have you seen that? I'm kind of breaking off quite a bit, but
Yeah, no, what I will say actually about that is I've heard it a million times, and every time I hear it, it's always from the person who complains that they're not losing weight.
yeah.
You know, it's not necessarily people who are happy. Yeah, I train 5 days a week, then I eat on the weekends, and I drink on the weekends, and I start again, and you know, it's great, and I like the system. Fine if you like the system. But don't come to your trainer or go to somebody at the gym and say, I can't understand why I'm losing weight, or I'm wasting my time going to the gym and this and that. And, you know, if you want to achieve it, you can. If you don't, it's very easy not to. But definitely, it should be very much of a lifestyle change. And, you know, I'll bring in somebody very close to you who, to me, has changed their lifestyle tremendously in the last couple of years, and that's obviously going to be Emer, your wife. You know, she'd gone from going to the gym a couple of times a week to being very, very consistent with it, and then the food kind of took over, and then she went and got certified, and now she's doing really well, and she's been very successful helping other clients do the same thing, be it through a running group or weight loss or personal training. You know, I have to say hats off. She's definitely an inspiration to show somebody who was just your average person, and don't take any offence even if you're listening, but initially before you started, you were your average female. You started going to the gym, and you've stepped it up every single time, and every time myself and my wife Amanda go back to see you, she looks better and better and better. And you know, hats off to Emer if she's listening in. So she's a prime example of how you can go from.
And Emer will be listening into the show tomorrow, so
yeah, you can.
She'll say that. But
prime example.
I had a child 23 months ago, and that just goes for all any pregnant moms or expecting moms. It can be done. It's being done every single day. I don't want to sound too harsh because being a male, but pregnancy isn't the key to eat all around you.
Oh God, no.
It's not a key to go, oh, choose I'm having a family, you know, so I get big. You're letting your own body down, and eventually you'll stop having kids, and eventually you want to get your body back. And by that stage, you could have so much ahead of you, the thought of it might be too much. So it can be done, guys.
Yeah, that's a big thing. There are many different studies out there and different doctors' opinions, this and that, about how much weight is acceptable or is required, let's say, to maintain a healthy fetus inside the womb. And you know, from whatever your starting weight was, presuming that you're just getting weight for the baby and you're not, you know, overeating like crap, to say by the time you come to pregnancy, 25 pounds is the total amount of total weight. That includes your baby.
Yeah.
So you're talking about an extra 15 pounds of body fat if he's a big child, or 16, 17 pounds at the most. Now again, that depends of course on the person themselves, how tall they are, how short they are, whatever else. But you're talking 20, 25 pounds, thereabouts, is the most that you are required by kind of to make sure you're within those healthy ranges. Anything extra over that, guys, unless you're having 16 kids at once, you know, you don't need to be pounding down 25 cheeseburgers a week just because I'm eating for 2 or eating for 4 or whatever it is. You know, you're not eating for 2 full people. That baby is tiny. He's 7 or 8 or 9 pounds. Come on. You know, like, you don't need to eat that amount of food. So again, Craig, like you said, pregnancy, as much as I would never like to go through having a baby myself in terms of popping one out, I hats off to any woman out there who has had a child, but it's not an excuse to get out of shape. If you want to get out of shape, fine, but don't blame having a kid for it, because it's just not a valid reason whatsoever. I don't care. It's not a valid reason. So anyway, we'll go back to the weight loss there, Craig.
Sorry. Come back to us. Sorry.
We'll go back to the weight loss there. You know,
again, how we wished it was true plateaus anyway, and like there's a million ways to break a plateau, but I think the most important thing is realizing that you've hit it.
Yeah. And
knowing that you've been the same for the last 6 weeks, you've been the same for the last 8 weeks. Nothing has changed. You haven't got stronger. You haven't got leaner. You haven't got bigger. And you actually, if anything, you kind of step backwards. And no, I didn't mention it, and Colin pointed that out, but even, like Colin said, the week off, it could be something as simple as that, guys. Yeah. A week off. Come back here with a new goal, new fresh start. That's all it takes, guys. you're not reinventing the wheel here when it comes to plateau breaking.
Yeah.
It's very, very easy to break out of it. But like, you gotta know that you're in it to break out.
Yeah, I would say again, just on the weight loss one, as far as I'm concerned, if one of my clients is trying to lose weight, and if their goal is, let's say it's 30 pounds, we'll say, okay, in 15 weeks that weight is gone and then some, but no matter what, 15 weeks, so 2 pounds a week. Obviously it depends on how heavy the person is in the first place, but you know, on a general rule, if they're losing 2 a week, wonderful. If they come into me 1 week and the weight hasn't gone, if they're still the same, or even if they've gone up a little bit, it doesn't bother me as long as I'm aware that they're following the plan. I'll trust it, and if the following week they're still sitting on that same weight, then we'll make some adjustments, because you know, from the space of 7 days your body can retain water, especially if you're female, depending on what time of the month it is. You know, females definitely will get bloated on their period. You know, it is what it is. And I will say, just to any females who are out there listening, you might not feel comfortable telling your trainer or whoever it is helping you that, look, it is that time of the month. Believe me, if you're anyway open to the idea at all, just say it to them so that they're not killing you with an extra 3 or 4 sessions of cardio, just to try and make up for the weight that they think you haven't lost, but in reality you just gained water because of the time of the month that it is. So, you know, you might want to share the info. If not, don't worry about it, but at least be aware yourself that could be a factor in why you're not losing weight that particular week, as long as you're doing everything else correctly. But again, if you have any more questions about diet, nutrition, training plateaus, be it for strength or fitness, you know, send us an email at yourphysiqueradio@gmail.com, or contact us through facebook.com/yourphysiqueradio, and we'll get back in touch with a little bit more detail and how to go through your plateau, more specific to your own case, of course. Craig, next up, we're going to be moving on to our top 5s of the week, and this week they are machine movements. And we're picking machines because generally they're easier to use, they're harder to get wrong. The initial time somebody goes to the gym, they're normally introduced to machines, which I personally will do as well myself, because I don't want someone to become overwhelmed with having to worry about where their elbows are and their hands are and making sure their back is straight and all this stuff. Typically when you're using a machine, your body will naturally go into those good positions, and if it doesn't, it's very simple to adjust. But machines for me are definitely worth using. I'll probably use them 40% of my own training, and probably the same with my clients, because especially coming towards the end of the workout, I do like to use machines for my clients, because if they are tired or they are fatigued, there's less chance of injury when they're in a machine. But of course you can always get injured, but I don't think you should ever get injured in a gym, especially not under the tutelage of a trainer right there beside you. They should stop you before it happens, if it's about to happen. But again, we've seen many a poor trainer in many a gym, and you know, it just baffles me to try and figure out how these guys are making money, or these girls are making money sometimes with the ideas or the philosophy that they have, or the shape that they're not in. Sometimes kind of I don't know, it freaks me out sometimes to see some stuff that goes on in the gym, and the fact that the client, you know, they don't know any better. They've been with this person for a year, 2 years, or 6 weeks, or whatever it is, and they're coming in expecting, because the guy is certified and wearing a t-shirt that says trainer on it, that he knows what he's talking about. But again, it's not always the case. Just like any profession, I suppose, you know, you can go to your local GP and they might think that smoking is okay because I smoke myself, and you know, it never hurt me, and you know, you got to move with the times. You got to keep up to date and educated, and that's really what you're see.
Colin, you could go to your, like you say about the GP, you could go be me and have a BMI of nearly 30, and then you're in trouble.
Yeah, actually, I just, well, I think what you're touching on there is, when I was coming over here to the States to get my green card approval, you have to do a full medical. You got to do your eye test, check your weight, you know, they'll take a blood test, do this kind of stuff, and you know, for some reason they also check the flexibility in my knees and my hips, which I don't understand how that relates to getting a visa, but you know, it was in the medical anyway, and all was good apparently, even though my hamstrings couldn't be tighter at the moment. But anyway, one of the questions, of course, was your height versus your weight, which will give you your body mass index, which is your BMI. And my BMI at the time sat around 29 or thereabouts, which is 4 points above what is classified as a healthy weight. So basically I was almost obese, but just very overweight. Now in reality I'm not, but according to the BMI chart I was, and he actually suggested to me that I should start losing some weight. So, you know, he clearly didn't take into any consideration my physical appearance or how my genetic makeup is, that it's not body fat, that it's more muscle than anything else. And the BMI system is just unbelievably ridiculous. I think it's the worst system that's out there. Even the height to weight ratio is better than the body mass index system. I don't want to ramble on.
It's so 70s.
Yeah, 1870s. It's absolutely ridiculous, Greg. And you know what? They use BMI for your health insurance.
Oh way.
You know, so I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say this. When we were applying for health insurance, I had to lie about my body weight because I knew it would increase my premiums if I actually told them what weight I really am. So,
my God, that makes no sense at all.
You know, they just ask your height, ask your weight, and the reason they're asking your weight is so they can do a BMI chart and actually train a person at the moment who sells insurance. And she said it to me as well. She said, yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from, but even for her to get health insurance from her company in which she works for, BMI is one of the numbers that she has to be below 25, so she has to be in those normal ranges, which she is. But you know, if she were to creep above that, let's say for muscle, or if it was a guy who creeped above 25 on a BMI graph because of muscle gain, his premiums for health insurance would go up as opposed to come down, because he's actually healthier to have more muscle than to have the amount of body fat that is suggested. It's they need to change the systems. So many bad systems out there in the fitness industry, or health industry itself. It's just ridiculous. But look, it is what it is. We can only vote for the government officials that we hope will put in decent protocols in place. But again, do we trust our politicians, Craig? I'm not quite sure. But anyways, we'll move on again. Or sorry, we won't move on. We'll stick with what we're doing. We'll actually talk about the topic itself. So machine movements, top fives. Craig, I'll go with mine first. Normally I get you to jump in there first, but I'll go with mine. My top five are, if you can access them, of course, because not every gym will have them, but a leg press at 45-degree angle to me is one of the best leg movements you could do because of the variety in terms of foot placements and the safety and comfort for your lower back and upper back and your spine. A seated row then, if it's done correctly, I feel is one of the better movements for your back as well, because you can lean forward at the hip and create that flexion, allowing your lower back and your lumbar to work on the way back. Then of course you pull your elbows in and you squeeze your lats, your rhomboids, a little bit trapezius, some biceps, some rear deltoid. And if it's done correctly, I think it's a very, very effective exercise. But it is definitely one of the exercises that are done very, very poorly and sloppy, and sometimes it's a hard one to actually teach people how to do it properly, because they're so used to seeing other people do it incorrectly that they feel that it's what they're doing is already correct, and in fact it's normally not. So we've got leg press and seated row. Next up then is a chest press, very specifically a hammer strength chest press, because of the isolateral movement, so left hand and right hand move independently, but as you press the weight out, it also goes slightly up and in, so it's more like doing a dumbbell press than a standard machine. So for that reason as well, I really, really enjoy it. It's very smooth. It allows a very good stretch through the pec on the way back and a good contraction on the way forwards, as long as you concentrate on the muscle that you're trying to work. A hack squat then is my next one up. So again, we're talking probably just off of a 45-degree angle. Again, if it's done properly and the plate and the platform are solid enough, which Craig, we've experienced ourselves a very expensive hack squat in a gym that we used to train in Ireland, which the standing plate that you would stand on would actually bend and wobble because it was so unsupportive and unsafe. It was just dangerous. But we managed to modify it ourselves and do different exercises, so we worked it out. But again, a hack squat, don't shy away from it just because you haven't used it before. Typically it will feel relatively heavy if you've never done it before in the angle, but it's definitely a very good one. Again, you've got plenty of back support if you're in the right position. If the platform is solid and big enough, you can have all those different foot placements. And just like doing a pull-up versus a lat pull-down, doing a leg press versus a hack squat, as much as the exercise may look similar, you definitely feel it in a different area and it feels like a different movement. There's more pressure put on different areas of the leg. So the combination of those two would be my two preferred machine movements for the legs. Now, actually, Craig, while I'm speaking about legs, we have a standing leverage squat machine at the gym I train at here, the Gold's Gym in Phoenix, and it's the smoothest, best thing. I'd say it's about 25 years old, but it's so smooth. Basically, you load the plates on the sides and you're standing underneath the pads yourself. And the platform is probably, it's toes up higher than your heels, so there's probably a 10 degree of an incline on this platform, so you really feel it through your hamstrings
Nice.
and your glutes. Really, and you can load up the weight as well because it's not stressing out on your shoulders or your lower back. And it's next to a mirror, of course, so you can see if you're making sure you're going down far enough. And definitely one to add, but because it's not very common, I've left it out of the list. So again, so far we've got the leg press, seated row, hammer strength chest press, a hack squat, and then last up I'm going to go with a cable crossover. Now this is kind of semi between dumbbells and machines in the cable movement, but because of the variety that you have, you know, you can do bicep, tricep, shoulders. You can do lunges if you're clever enough about it. You can do back exercises. Obviously, you can do chest, so you can do pec flies using the cables or cable crossovers. It's, you know, it's one of the better machines. If I were to have a home gym and have enough space, definitely a double stack cable crossover would be what I would have in my gym. It's down by the side of a wall, a mirror behind it, and the amount of exercise you can do on there is only limited by your imagination, and a million exercises that you can do on there. So they're mine: leg press, seated row, hammer strength chest press, a hack squat, and a cable crossover. Craig, what are your top 5?
Yeah, just to touch yours there, Colin. I think if anyone is ever thinking about getting their own gym out their back, or maybe opening up a little gym for themselves, whatever, them 5 machines will have to be the first 5 on your list. As well, like, providing you have the money in the room, they should be your first 5. And that's what we're mentioning here, guys, as machines go up. Yeah, I know that pull down in my one, and it's an ideal machine for increasing back muscle and back size. It can be used for other muscle group too, due to its heavy stack. It's ideal for, let's say, newbies to the gym who can't really do a full chin up. That's the whole replication of the exercise. So, the one, like you mentioned about the seated row, I do think you see a pull down being done incorrectly.
Yeah.
As the job of the lat muscle is to pull the elbow from overhead, pull it down, straight down from overhead. That's the object of it. So in order to that, you've got to mimic it, chin up. So if you do a pull down, like, you know, you'll actually get fantastic results from it. But as you know, people use so much of the flexion and extension of the hip, and they're flying back, and it's actually, sometimes it actually looks like a real belt exercise than anything else. Yeah. That's what it looks like. Our rhomboids. I mean, the rhomboids do help in the lat pull down, but the main object of the lat pull is like a muscle. So that'll be one on my list. Leg press, exactly for what Colin said, the 45-degree one of the greatest. It is the best mass builder, I think, for legs when it comes to machines. It's great for people who have trouble with their squat. We'll say, you know, if they have lower back injuries or whatever, because of the safety aspect of it. And you can put a good lot of plates without really risking injury. Even though you can get injured on anything, but it takes a lot of risk. I have a cable crossover for the exact same reason Colin said. There is just so many uses for this piece of equipment. You could pretty much do everything inside of it. Loads of different ways, different angles it can be used. And ideally, a Smith machine that has adjustable cables, so you can hit it from different points instead of just up and down.
Yep.
So that ideally, but any cable crossovers, that's definitely worth to go. I have a Smith machine in here. I also think it's a very valuable piece of equipment for people who train on their own anyway. Most will have built-in safeties and take the risk of going heavy without a spotter. All pressing movements can be done on the Smith machine, as well as squats, bent over rows, deadlifts, calf raises. So in terms of packing on some serious beef, the Smith machine is probably the most important on this list. Now, leg extension. I know it's an isolated movement, but I mean, my isolated is only a single joint movement, so I'm using the word isolated. So, but I don't think you get the same squeeze in any other free weight movement on the quad. You can't get the same, like, really drawing up the muscle at the very, very end, and you can really hold it as well for an extra 2 or 3 seconds if you need be. And you can hit it from different angles. I know you're probably thinking, how would changing the toe position, something as simple as that, doing alternating, so do one leg at a time instead of both legs at a time. Use for keeping a sore knee, because the stacks usually go from like 5 to 10 pounds all the way to whatever 200 pounds. So it can be nice and light for rehabbing. So just to reiterate my top 5, I have lat pull down, leg press, cable crossover, Smith machine, and leg extension.
What I would say there is, you mentioned different toe positions, and the same thing applies for almost every exercise that's out there, guys. Don't always just do a tricep press down using a straight bar. Use it using the rope, use it doing one-handed cables. When you're doing your leg presses, don't always just go center of the plate, flat feet. You can put your toes out to the side slightly, but make sure that your toes and your knees stay in line so that your knee tracks towards your toes. Other than that, there's never really an issue. The higher your feet are on the platform and the leg press, the more hamstring and glutes you're going to involve. The narrower your feet in the platform, the more outside or sweep that you're going to get in your quads. And it's just a matter of playing around with it. But what I would say to a lot of people is, it's a big mistake that I see is when people are trying to adjust their foot positioning on the leg press, they typically do it when they've already taken the load on, so they've pushed up, the safeties are off, and then they start to adjust their feet, which is just mind-boggling to me, why you would want to try and throw around whatever, let's say 200 or 300 kilos if you're one of the bigger lads out there, and you're trying to shift your feet off to the left, or you're trying to turn your toes, your heels. Your warm-up set, use it, feel where you want to work on, get your feet in position, load the plates properly, and then apply that pressure. Don't start twisting your ankles and your knees while you've got that much weight on your legs, because you're definitely looking to get something hurt on your knee or ankle joints. Craig said earlier with the Smith machine, you can almost go to, you can go to failure on a Smith machine in a squat, in a Smith machine lunge, in a bench press, in a shoulder press, an incline press. Put those safeties at the correct height. Make sure they're not too low, because if they're too low, what's the point in even using them? If they're too high, again, the same thing applies. Why bother? You're losing out on those last 3 or 4 inches or whatever the depth is. But the one thing I will say about any exercise, unless you're specifically doing it on purpose, do not go through a half range of motion. Go all the way up, go all the way down, work the muscle through its full range of motion. I can understand the likes of 21s where you've got a barbell and you do let's say the bottom half of the bicep curl first, then you do the top half, and then you'll finish off by doing the full range of motion. So 7 bottom, 7 top, 7 full. Fine. Now why you pick 7 over 8 or over 4, look, that's just the way they were initially designed. They were called 21s. But you could do your 15s, you could do a multiple of 5s or a multiple of 6, a multiple of 7s. Whatever you want to do it. At the end of the day, it's all about stimulating muscle growth by breaking down the muscle and then going home and eating. So something like that might be something that gets you through a bicep plateau, where you do higher repetitions with a lighter weight than what you might do normally for 10 repetitions. But again, machines, a lot of people say, dumbbells and free weights are the king. I think if they're done correctly, dumbbells are more versatile and they add more stress in certain areas. But if you do a shoulder press in a cable machine versus a shoulder press in dumbbells, you actually have more stress on the shoulder for a longer period of time doing it in the cable machine if you're set up correctly. Because at the top of the movement, you still have that effect of gravity pulling you down and out in the cables, whereas if you're on dumbbells, you get to the top of the movement, your elbow is locked, there's no stress on the shoulder anymore. So don't be afraid to do some of your standard movements in the cable machines, be it in a Smith machine or a free motion machine, anything like that. Or play around the foot positions on the leg presses, leg extensions, different types of leg curls, be it seated, lying or standing. Variety is always going to help keep you interested and keep your body trying to work against you by growing more muscle to stop you from breaking down muscle. And that's really what the body is trying to do. It's trying to stop you from getting better by getting better itself. Well, Craig, those 10 movements in total, or 9 let's say, because we doubled up on the cable crossover, I think if you only had those 9 machines in your gym, there's no excuse whatsoever why you can't train every muscle group properly once a week and keep going forwards and just change the variety of your hand positions or the the depth that you're going in, or your foot positions, whatever the case may be.
Absolutely.
So there are our top 5 machine movements. Alright guys, next up then is our Q&A segment. This week again we got 2 questions. One is coming from Lynn in Wales, and the second is from Dean in Chicago. Lynn, we're going to go with you first. Her question is, last week you mentioned covering other categories other than male bodybuilding, such as fitness, women's bodybuilding, etc. But in recent years, female bodybuilding has begun to decline in participants. What do you think is the cause of this? Well, Lynn, I'll very simply say that I think there's less competition because there's less bodybuilders. It's as simple as that. And again, to go a little bit more to the question, not to just leave it like that, I think there's less bodybuilders because there's less appreciation for it and there's less prize money. And as much as you might like to go to the gym and to develop a physique where you can look and say, I'm really proud of this and that, a lot of the incentive for the top girls is definitely the money. And if the money isn't there because the competitions are not there, because the competitors are not there, the people on the sidelines who would technically be the next generation of bodybuilders, they're not going to see any glory in being a Miss Olympia or this or Miss Olympia, whatever. So, you know, getting to those huge extremes of where you're standing on stage as Miss Olympia in the bodybuilding category, you know, that's a whole different life change whatsoever. That I can't even come to imagine doing that myself because of the dedication and the ridicule that you're going to receive from everyone else outside of the bodybuilding scene. The guys will get some respect from average Joe on the street, oh, you're big, you're this, you're whatever. But the women typically don't get very much respect whatsoever. It's very much, oh, you look like a man, why would you do that to yourself? That's disgusting, that's gross. But like, it's a two-sided coin. I won't say we've been brainwashed, but over the last 30, 40 years, we're typically saying, well, females should be feminine, males should be masculine, and that's that. You know, and what the female bodybuilder has to do to look the way they have to do to win the bodybuilding competition at the professional ranks at least is, you know, that's a lot of risk involved there in terms of their hormones, and you know, you're playing around a lot there with chemicals, whether people believe it or not, or to hear someone say, oh, I'm natural this, I'm natural that. I'll put my life on it that the 10 or 12 women you will see at this year's Miss Olympia are not naturally that big or that muscular. You know, they're definitely taking performance enhancing, there's no question. And I have no issue with that whatsoever. But again, that's another reason why there's less women out there, because you hear all these stories about, oh, this happens when you take that and that happens when you take this. And look, some of these stories might turn out to be a little bit on the true side, some of them might not, but most people nowadays are scared away from the idea of trying to become that big or trying to become that strong. And when the rewards are not in it, why take such a big risk? But again, it's a huge lifestyle change. If you want to go from being a muscular lady to being a professional bodybuilder, there's a massive difference in terms of training, performance enhancing drugs, just day to day how people will perceive you, you know. And you shouldn't be perceived, or you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, let's say, but everyone does it. And the worst thing is women's bodybuilders get the worst end of the stick, absolutely. So that's why I think there's less women bodybuilding shows out there, just because there's no fame, there's no glory, unless you're looking for personal success. Other than that, there's not much to be had from becoming a top IFBB or top any federation professional women's bodybuilder. You know, there's too much sacrifice for the small amount of reward. Craig, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of read everything you just said there, Colin, to be honest, but obviously I think it's harder to be Miss Olympia than it is to be Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Sense, because like, I don't know, it's so hard. It really is, and just the whole ridicule enough probably turn 99.9% of regular females away. But I guess, you know, there's always 0.1%, and you have to hand it to them, and whatever your view on, or they look Spanish, or they look this or look that, they're absolutely fantastic driven people, like, and that's always there in the background. I mean, muscle and all this stuff, guys, it's just superficial. It's on the outside. They're regular people, just like you and me. Like, you'll always remember that the next time you go to talk about them. That goes for regular men bodybuilders as well, but more women as well. I would think the marketability factor as well, and I think that's why we have bikini now. And bikini is just getting massive. It's massive because it's more marketable. You still have the fitness side of it. You still have the bit of muscle side of it. You've plenty of toning going on, but they keep their kind of femininity, to not make it too sound like the bodybuilders don't, but like everyone will know what I'm getting at, you know. So I think it's more marketable. I think in probably 10 years there'll be more bikini will be much bigger than bodybuilding in 10 years, maybe 5 years.
I think that women's bodybuilding in terms of Miss Olympia will be gone in 4 years' time. Now I know that will disappoint some people and other people won't care either way, but I definitely think that, you know, when push comes to shove, like you said, bikini is getting huge, men's physique is getting up there. Now we've got women's physique as well. You know, those categories have got so many people qualifying each year, so many competitors that do want to qualify. There's so much competition, there are more entries. The Olympia weekend is already 4 days. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They can't squeeze anything more in there. So whatever's going to go is going to be the least profitable. And right now, as far as I'm concerned, that is definitely the women's bodybuilding is the least profitable. There's the least amount of athletes, the least amount of fans. So taking up stage time for that, as much as the bodybuilders themselves won't want to see it go, the promoters aren't going to allow that time anymore, I don't think. You know, if they can make more money from putting 5,000 people in the seats for prejudging for the bikini versus 800 for women's bodybuilding and the prize money is the same, clearly bikini is going to win. There's no question. So I think 4 years from now, the 2015 Miss Olympia will not exist. It will be still Mr. Olympia, fine, but Miss Olympia will be gone by 2015, I think.
Yeah, it's sad, but it's just the way it's happening, I guess.
Yeah.
Everything is money driven these days, so I want just to be like you say there, you know, and the whole reason you said that about bodybuilding, if the men's physique got snowballed completely and men's bodybuilding slacked a bit, it could go the same way, guys. It really could.
Yeah.
It's about money at the end of the day.
Yeah, you see, unless the fans are there, you know, it's not going to happen. Now, I think on a longevity, I think male bodybuilding will keep moving forwards. I'm not concerned about that because, you know, typically a muscular male is something that is appreciated, whereas a muscular female isn't always. And I think, like you said, Craig, I think to be Miss Olympia versus Mr. Olympia, and of course, you know, Phil Heath, don't take any offence here, buddy, but, you know, to be Miss Olympia, to me, is not only mentally harder or physically harder, but just from day to day, what you have to go through to get on stage, to be the size that you need to be in the condition, to change how you look, not just physically from the neck down, but above that as well, and potentially how you sound. And, you know, the females definitely have more side effects than the males when it comes to getting to the level that they need to be, and I think that's a huge factor in why there's less and less women doing it. And with women's physique coming forward the way it is, you know, there's still that opportunity there for the women to be muscular, to be lean, to be in shape, to be on stage and compete, but not have to go to the extremes of female bodybuilding. And at the end of the day, the athletes decide how successful an organisation will be, because the more athletes, the more fans, the less athletes, the less fans, and that's just the way it is when it comes to bodybuilding. So, you know, unfortunately, I think women's bodybuilding, like I said, 2015, it won't exist anymore at the Olympia level. Maybe smaller shows, maybe Arnold Classic, maybe still here in Ireland via the organisations, but IFBB Miss Olympia, I do not think will be around 2015, which is sad to say, but I think it will be the case. So, moving on then, question number 2, Dean in Chicago. The question is, should I eat carbs post-training or is protein enough? My friends tell me protein is more important than not to worry about carbs. What are your opinions? Right, well, Craig, do you want to jump in on this one first?
Yeah. Well, just not to go too fine into it, but Dean, yeah, I would definitely try and get some carbs in post-training. Now, if you just had regular whey protein, it's not the end of the world. But I would definitely, you could, if you wanted, and not worry about the carbs, and this goes for men, women, whatever, after you've done a hard training session, when you take some protein afterwards, obviously you want to deliver it in faster, And to get it in faster, you're going to need carbohydrates, and that will transport the protein in much, much faster than rather than waiting for it to get in there otherwise. Now, if it's not an option, I mean, you could just add in something as simple as a banana with your post-workout shake, a teaspoon of sugar, table sugar, with your post-workout shake, something like a Gatorade maybe, after you're taking your post-workout shake, things that will help. Otherwise, you could just have your whey protein shake, and then maybe an hour later have a decent dinner or decent meal involving a bit more protein and a bit more carbohydrates, so you want to worry too much about it. But Dean, I would definitely say don't worry about it if you want to. It'll do you no harm. It'll probably do you better having it. It's not the end of the world if you don't. But on a personal level, I would always try to get in some carbs, some quick acting carbs, like some simple carbs, straight after training. How about you, Colin?
Yeah, I do definitely think that, you know, if you're going to pick one or the other, protein is going to be the one you're going to pick, hopefully. It's definitely the one that your muscle is requiring the most of. But there's many studies out there that suggest that adding carbohydrates to your protein shake post-meal or your protein meal post-training is going to be much more beneficial to you. Like you said, Craig, it will deliver faster. The faster it gets in there, the faster you recover, the less breakdown, the further you can go in your training following that, and you keep up that process, and eventually you keep going further and further in terms of your progression, and hopefully you don't reach a plateau like we mentioned earlier. But again, maybe it's your nutrition. I think if you've no food choices other than carbohydrates after training, definitely, because at least it will restore the glycogen within the muscles themselves and allow you to recover and train a little bit, allow you to generate what's the word I'm looking for here? Generate energy in which you can use, store energy. I'm going to start again. If you're just having carbohydrates after training, then at least that's something that will allow you to at least store some energy for your next training session or your next whatever it is that day. If you're going to the gym or if you're just hanging out for the next 5 or 6 hours, at least you'll have some stores in there so that you can actively move around and you're not going to get tired and fatigued. However, in a perfect scenario, definitely I would say 35-40 grams of protein, probably at least 10-15 grams of carbohydrates. As a minimum, I would say a teaspoon of table sugar, which is probably about 5 or 6 grams. But in the ideal world, it wouldn't be a simple sugar like that. I'd prefer something a little bit more complex. As much as you want a simple sugar or simple carbohydrate in there, I don't like encouraging it to people. So a Gatorade is, again, it's a good idea if you can get it, but I would prefer you to be sitting down eating dinner with a chicken breast and some rice or yams or sweet potato or regular potato, something like that, as opposed to just adding some sugar. But in a quick scenario, if you're in a rush, if you're on the run, teaspoon of sugar, as Craig mentioned, or Gatorade, have your protein shake, take the two of them back. Don't wait any longer than half an hour. As far as I'm concerned, I'd like to see you drinking it as you're walking out of the gym. But of course, you're not going to be eating your chicken and rice as you're walking out of the gym, although I have seen it. Actually, Craig, there's a microwave and an area at the gym I go to that has there's an area at the gym that I go to that does have a microwave and a table. So if you do want to sit down and reheat food, there you go. It's ready for you to use, which is also a nice little touch for the sake of a $50 microwave.
That's good loss.
But you will get the random smell of like chicken and eggs and stuff floating through the gym from time to time. But look, that's all right too. But yeah, definitely protein is your key. Adding carbohydrates will help benefit as far as I'm concerned than anything that I've ever seen. So whether it's a simple carbohydrate like sugar or Gatorade, or it's a more complex like rice or sweet potato, definitely post-training carbohydrates with the combination of a good protein source, which is the key, is going to be best for your recovery. Now, a lot of guys, Craig, you will notice as well, will just take protein after their training, and they'll say, I had a protein shake, I'm ready, I'm done, that's it. What about the next 6 hours that you're sitting at home on your ass on the couch, or the 7 or 8 hours before you went to the gym? You know, are you eating protein consistently throughout those times? If you're not, you should be. Don't just try and pile it all in post-training by having 4 or 5 scoops of protein, which is like 125 grams of protein, and look, your body cannot absorb all of that protein, so you're just wasting money and you're going to add body fat. You know, gradual increments throughout the day or smaller meals throughout the day is the key for weight loss and weight gain, especially if you're looking to build muscle and recover faster. So again, the initial question, should I add carbohydrates to my protein shake or just have protein on its own? I would say add carbohydrates to your post meal or to your actual shake itself. I don't mind. As Craig said, he doesn't mind either. In fact, we both would encourage it. But Dean, appreciate your question. Lynn, we also appreciate your question. Guys, if you have any more questions you would like, send them in, and we'll give you the info on how to do so coming up in a few moments. But looking to next week, Craig, unless you have anything else you'd like to add to those two questions.
No, that's about it. Exactly. I'd like to say thanks to Lynn and Dean for the questions, and I'll give some more info again in about a few minutes how to get in contact with us.
Next week then we're going to be looking at more updates for the Pro Bodybuilding Weekly Show in August. Again, we've got 4 names in. We've Tony Freeman, Brandon Curry, Ed Nunn and Hidetari Yamagishi. There will definitely be more to add to that come next week, I would imagine, as we will be 2 weeks and counting. Our topic of the week next week will be training around an injury. Now, this happens to people, it shouldn't, but people do get injured. And one reason why is because you're training hard. And sometimes when you're training hard, you train sloppy, and sometimes you do get an injury. Or maybe you got injured on the football field or the soccer field or the rugby field. So myself and Craig will pick one injury ourselves each, and we'll explain how to recover from them. And we will actually pick an injury that we have experienced with one of our clients or someone who has come to us to help them recover from, more so than us causing an injury to them. Because I know myself, Craig, I have not caused an injury to any of my clients. I'm not sure about you. Have you?
No, not yet. Thank God.
Good. And we'll keep it that way. So we're talking about how to train around an injury. Our top 5s will be lifting mistakes. So again, looking at your foot positions, what's the worst place to put your feet in? What machine do people use incorrectly the most? We mentioned earlier that a seated row or lat pull down can be just the most ridiculous looking exercise if done incorrectly. So we'll be speaking about some of the lifting mistakes that we have seen, experienced, and maybe we'll throw in some funny ones as well of some samples in which exercises that are totally useless but are quite often done at the gym, like bouncing up and down on a Swiss ball. But look, that's for another time. Q&A will be back, so make sure to get your questions into us. And Craig has all the info coming up to you right now.
Alright, so guys, if you want to contact Colin directly, go to www.yourphysiquepersonaltraining.com. If you want to contact myself, get me on facebook.com/KesselMainGym. If you want to contact the show, you can get us at facebook.com/yourphysiqueradio or email us at yourphysiqueradio@gmail.com, and you can follow us on Twitter at Physique Radio.
Alright guys, well with that then we come to the end of episode number 9 of Your Physique Radio on July the 23rd, 2012. Until next week, remember, it's your physique.
And it's your choice.
Thank you for listening to Your Physique Radio. Replays of all previous episodes are available on iTunes, YouTube and Facebook. And for advertising opportunities, contact us at yourphysiqueradio@gmail.com. Your Physique Radio, it's your physique, it's your choice.